Hi everyone. Today we'll be talking about the lifestyle factor stress. And to better understand the concept of stress, I'm going to use an analogy that I did not invent. I don't have a glass of water. The analogy starts with a glass of water, but I'll be using my coffee cup. If I were to ask you, how heavy is this cup of coffee? What would you say? The weight actually doesn't really matter. What matters is for how long I hold it. If I hold it for a minute, I'll be fine. If I hold it for an hour, I'll probably feel that my hand is going numb. And if I hold it for a whole day, I'll probably feel that my hand is getting paralyzed and I can't even feel it. And in each case, the weight of the water doesn't change, but the longer it's held, the heavier it feels. Stress is like the cup of coffee or the glass of water. Think about it for a short time and everything is fine. Think about it for a longer period of time and it begins to feel uncomfortable. And if you think about it all the time, talking about chronic stress, you might even feel paralyzed and not being able to move forward. So I hope that clarifies what stress is, but don't worry, stress is not all that bad. Let's look at the table of content and what we're going to cover today. We are going to look at a lifestyle factor stress, as I said, which is experienced every day. We're going to understand what stress is, how it impacts our training, how it impacts our diet, and what are the tools out there for managing stress. So let's begin. What is stress? Our physiological and psychological response to threats and demands. It can be beneficial and problematic, but it depends on the type and the context. It's interesting phenomenon, and when we are talking about stress, we're mainly talking about the stress response of the human body. And the stress response is mediated by cortisol, which some of you might know. Cortisol is the hormone, the stress hormone, and it consists of sympathetic nervous system activity, which basically causes fight or flight response. And that's very useful if you get into if you get into a fist fight or you have to run away from an animal. But stress can happen just purely from waiting in a traffic jam or living in busy or leading a busy lifestyle. Here you can see a scheme at the stress response and what happens. So when the stress response happens, it decreases your appetite, it increases the cardiac output, so your heart starts racing faster, it increases blood flow to your muscles, but decreases to the skin and the digestive system, and it mobilizes energy stores. So this is a great example, for instance, of a feeling you have before something big for you happens. It's almost like the adrenaline increases and you become sharper, more focused, and you can get things done faster. And think about a competition that it's important for you or an exam that you're about to take. These are the symptoms that you might have, that you can't eat, that your heart wants to get out of your chest. So it's not a bad thing. It actually helps you to become better for a short period of time, to become more focused and capable of doing more. So it makes you active both in a metabolic stress, so it allows you to produce energy, and also in psychological sense, it makes you alert. And as I said, it's very adaptive functional mechanism. The stress response, a little stress known as eustress, which is good stress, can be beneficial. It sharpens our focus and helps us perform tasks more effectively. However, when stress becomes chronic, which means it lasts longer for a day or a week, it can have detrimental effects. The key difference between eustress, the good stress, and excessive stress lies in the dosage. Like many things in the body, with cortisol, the dose makes the poison. And high chronic stress is harmful to almost every aspect of our health. Stress puts our bodies in fight or flight mode, dominated by the sympathetic nervous system, as opposed to the rest and digest mode, which is controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system. And in this stage, functions like reproduction, growth, repair, and digestion are effectively switched off. This is not a healthy state to maintain long term. Living a very stressful life can literally shorten your lifespan. The stress response includes inflammation, oxidative stress, and elevated insulin levels, all of which degrade the body over time, even impacting the telomeres that protect our DNA. So, as I said, if you go back to the analogy, if you hold a glass of water for a minute, or if you're stressed for a day or a week to complete something that is important for you, that's fine. But if that continues for longer, then it can have detrimental effects on your both physical and mental health. And high chronic stress induced hormonal disruption, which is the stress can also disrupt the hypothalamic pituitary axis, which affects nearly all of our hormones in the body. And since hormones are the messengers for many systems, it also disturbs almost every part of the body. This connection between psychology and physiology is especially evident in high stress conditions like burnout and post-traumatic stress disorders, also known as PTSD. And while we often think of these as psychological issues, their symptoms are clearly physical as well. Cortisol directly links psychological stress to physiological outcomes. And now let's have a look at the stress in your training. As I said, stress can impair our growth and repair. So here we can see how students, they looked at students with high versus low academic stress. And stress doesn't just affect our general health, it also impacts our ability to train and recover. In the study by Bartholomew, 2008, as I said, looked at students under high versus low academic stress over a 12-week strength training program. They looked at the high stress group gained less strength in both the bench press and squat. So they looked at the bench press and squat, and they saw a smaller increase in arm and thigh size. And this was purely academic stress, deadlines and exams, yet it had a significant physical impact on their body's response to training. And a similar study by Hollander found that individuals with lower stress levels had positive body recomposition. They lost fat and gained muscle. In contrast, the high stress group gained less than half the strength in leg press exercise and actually gained fat while losing muscle. And the study included both men and women with no gender specific effects found. Again, high stress impairs strength and body composition. Stress also impairs our recovery capacity, as I said earlier with the first study that we looked at. One study found that high psychological stress can double the time needed to recover from strength training. And another study showed that the risk of injury nearly doubled during periods of high academic stress in Division 1 football players. Interestingly, changes in academic stress seemed more strongly related to injury risk than changes in training stress. And it's also well known in the medical community that stress significantly impairs the healing time of various conditions, including simple wounds. We can also monitor the training status of athletes by their testosterone to cortisol ratio, TC ratio. Elevated cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, driven by stress, antagonize testosterone, predictably lowering the TC ratio, the testosterone to cortisol ratio. As such as a well-designed training program should consider the stress levels experienced by the individual. So when we're working with clients, we should here at Health by Science we always consider the stress, the sleep, the others lifestyle factors that the individuals are going through. So having a conversation how that person is feeling or considering other stresses in their life can be beneficial in order to change the volume of their training. I'd say modifying the frequency of the entire program structure whenever someone's life changes might be a bit much, but changing the volume of the program of the training on that day would be a better way of managing their stressor in their life. As we know, strength training is additional stressor on someone's body. And now let's have a look at the stress and your diet, as it plays a role in diet adherence. A little stress can be beneficial because it suppresses appetite. When we're busy and stressed, we're likely less focused on eating. However, chronic stress can paradoxically increase our desire for food, which is a phenomenon largely mediated by cortisol. With repeated stress, most people tend to gain weight. The body stores stress fat, and individuals often crave foods high in fat and sugar, particularly those with obesity. And stress provides a temporary feel good response, but this is followed by a crash, leading to more sugar consumption, sugar craving, in order to get that energy levels back. And this is how we end up in this never ending cycle. But don't worry, as I said, there are tools that will help us to manage our stress effectively. So now let's have a look at, apologies, we have one more stress in your diet to cover. Um, People generally fall into two categories, just to get back to the diet and how it affects some people and how it affects others. So when it comes to stress in eating, there are overeaters and undereaters. Overeaters, the more common group, experience cravings and insulin resistance, making it difficult to control eating. And undereaters, on the other hand, are highly sympathetic. So their digestive system shuts down, leading to reduced appetite and more alertness. And women in particular tend to rely more on comfort foods to counteract stress based on how much cortisol they secrete. And it is true with like the females that I've been working, they tend to have the tendency to have emotional eating. Hi, so let's have a look at how we can manage stress because it is crucial. We'll be looking at two coping strategies. One of them is known as passive coping. It involves task diversion, self medication, and social diversion. Task diversion involves occupying yourself with another task, often procrastinating with activities like cleaning, reading, scrolling, just doing anything to not get the actual task done. Self medication can involve comfort eating or, in more severe cases, drug use. And social diversion includes spending time with friends or engaging in activities that distract from the stressor. So you're not thinking about actually doing what is stressing you, getting the task done. Passive coping has its place. We're going to discuss how you can actually use passive coping when you're managing stressful situations in a positive way or in a healthy way. The second coping strategy is active coping. It's, on the other hand, directly addresses the root cause of stress. It can be problem focused, where you take action to resolve the issue, or emotion focused, where you manage the emotions caused by the stressor. Examples include talking to a partner after a fight or fixing an obstacle at work. And active coping is generally more effective than passive coping. So, addressing the problem immediately takes advantage of the energizing effects of the acute stress, and it's only when stress becomes chronic that problems arise. You can actually use that build up stress in you in order to act and finish what needs to be done. It can be used as a driver instead of just let it sit and become chronic. That's why active coping is shown to be a better way of coping with the stress that is out there. Problem focused coping was positively correlated with overall health outcomes, whereas confrontive coping, distancing, self control, seeking social support, accepting responsibility, avoidance, and wishful thinking were each negatively correlated with overall health outcomes. Neither planful problem solving nor positive reappraisal was significantly associated with overall health outcomes in our analysis, and that's by Pendley et al. So, problem focused, emotions focused, passive. If we act on the problem and try to fix it, try to have that conversation, or try to act on the task that needs to be done, is better. Then it comes emotions focused. If we know how to regulate our emotions, and things like meditation might come into place for emotion focused. And passive, as I said, passive is not a bad way, but it makes the stress bigger if it's been prolonged. If you can act on it instead of uh, getting rid of the stress, you are making it chronic the longer it stays with you. So passive, it has its place, but not. It doesn't work always, and most of the time, it's not the best way to deal with the stressful situations. And there is a prayer that I really like. It's a serenity prayer. It says, "Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference." So this is where the active and the passive comes. It's knowing when to act and knowing when to let go. But sometimes knowing the difference between these two can be quite challenging. So this is the serenity prayer. And fortunately, for me, stress is a good thing. So that's what I like to believe, that stress is actually a driver, and it gets me acting on things instead of letting me just not to do the task that I need to do. So fortunately, we will never get rid of stress, but we can control how we respond. We can use that as an emotion that drive us to get things completed. Now let's have a look at another study that looked how managing stress can actually positively impact other generations. One practical example of stress management is found in a study by Eliza et al. It's a beautiful study. If you can have a look at it. They looked at mindfulness practices with pregnant women to reduce excessive weight gain. So they used breathing techniques in order to make the pregnant women aware of their bodies and have better control of their bodies in order to stop indulging in overeating caused by emotional eating or caused by the high cortisol, which is the stress. This study, which is one of the longest of its kind, showed that mindfulness training had a potent multi-generational effect. It improved insulin sensitivity in pregnant women, and for years following, we'll see why or how. Mindfulness training, such as meditation, is one of the few scientifically established tools that can help cope with the negative feelings of stress. And although meditation is inherently a passive coping strategy, this is where the passive coping actually is useful. It can make active coping more successful by improving your ability to allocate attention and make rational decisions. It can make you more resilient. As a result of the mindfulness practices, babies came out with less obesity, less illness in the first year, and improved stress response over the first year. I don't know if you're aware, but if a mother is very stressed during her pregnancy, she can pass this on to the next generation, to her baby, and it creates more anxious individuals. Therefore, with the mindfulness practice, a body scan removed the stress, anxiety, and food cravings, which not only benefited the women, helping them gain less weight, gain less unwanted weight, but also it helped the babies to come healthier in this life. The way the study was conducted, or the practice that it was used, it was a daily checkup with their body. The intervention was closing their eyes, feeling their body, and labeling their emotions. They connected to their breathing, moved the body gently so they can connect to their bodies, and they also put their hands on their belly to feel their breathing. Now let's have a look at some of the other tips that will help us navigate stress. Here's a picture of someone in nature, and this is a reminder that spending time in nature significantly reduces stress. And even things like indoor plants can help reduce the stress. Other tips include journaling. Writing about your experiences helps organize your thoughts and reduces stress. Learning when to paddle and when to give into the wave. It's a great saying of knowing when to act and when to let go, as we said about that serendipity prayer. Then we've got practicing breath work and body scans to increase interception, which is the awareness of internal body sensation, and reduce exteroception, which is external stimuli helping you stay grounded, which will help you stay grounded. This is a great example of the study that we just looked at, how breath work or body scans can help you actually reduce stress and anxiety, and in some cases it can have effects on pregnant women, on their babies for years to follow. And last but not least, our favorite exercise used to burn negative energy and improve resilience. In conclusion, the stress is an inevitable part of our life, but we can control how we respond to it. And by understanding its effects and adopting effective coping strategies, we can mitigate its impact and maintain both our physical and mental health. So, when it comes to our personal use, knowing that stress is a driver and we can use it in our advantage to complete tasks that we've been putting off instead of procrastinating and making the stress chronic. We can understand that stress can have a huge impact on our diet and recovery and our training. So, knowing when to paddle and when to let go, which is knowing when to increase the volume of the individual if you're programming for them, or if you're programming for yourself, knowing that other factors in your life will have impact on your training, and also will impact your recovery time. So, knowing that if you're highly stressed, you might need to rest a bit longer in order to recover from your training. And last, for the diet, when you're highly stressed, it's more important to know how to reduce the stress in order to achieve your diet goals. And a little bit of stress is not bad, knowing that when you're busy, when you're a bit stressed, your appetite can be also suppressed. For some people, that might be a positive thing. So I hope you have a better understanding of the stress and how to manage it, more importantly. To finish this presentation, we would do a practical, and the practical is a 10 minutes non sleep deep rest, which is a tool we use in order to reset the body and increase our focus. So, if you'd like to be part of this 10-minute mindfulness practice, please do stay with me. Now, let's start with our non sleep deep rest practice. You'll want to do this protocol seated or lying down. So, if you're not already seated or lying down, please do so now. Now, please close your eyes. Throughout this protocol, you want to breathe normally unless instructed to do otherwise. One pattern of breath you'll be asked to do is to inhale deeply, ideally through your nose, but if you can't do it through your nose, inhale through your mouth. Try it now. And then exhale all of your air through your mouth. Let's do that again. Inhale deeply through your nose or through your mouth. And then inhale, exhale completely. And as you do that, exhale through thinly pursed lips, as if through a small straw. Repeat that 2 more times. And understand that long extended exhales through the mouth slow our heart rate down and relax our nervous system. Then you can go back to breathing normally. Now, in your mind's eye, imagine yourself standing over yourself, looking down at your body, which is seated or lying down. And imagine holding a flashlight or a spotlight and directing that at your feet. Focus your attention that whatever it is that your feet happen to be in contact with, could be socks, shoes, or merely the air. It doesn't matter. Focus your attention specifically at the bottoms of your feet and try and perceive whatever it is they are sensing. They could be tingling, they could even be numb. It doesn't matter. Focus your attention specifically at the bottoms of your feet. Now imagine expanding that spotlight to include the tops of your feet, your shins, your calves. Expanding that spotlight further to include your thighs, your hamstrings, and up to your waist. Now, with your entire lower body illuminated inside the beam of that spotlight, inhale deeply through your nose or through your mouth, and exhale completely through thinly pursed lips. until your lungs are empty. Repeat that twice more. And each time as you exhale, imagine your lower body sinking down about a centimeter into whatever surface you happen to be in contact with. Now move the spotlight to your abdomen and focus your attention on whatever it is that your abdomen is sensing. As you inhale, your stomach should move out slightly, and as you exhale, it should sink down. Expand the spotlight to include your upper abdomen, your chest, your neck, and now in your mind's eye, imagine that spotlight expanding to include your arms. Continue to breathe normally. Now focus your perception in whatever contact surface your back happens to be in contact with. A shirt, a chair, a sofa, it doesn't matter. Simply focus on the contact points. Bring your attention and your perception to those points of your contact. Inhale deeply through your nose or through your mouth, and as you exhale, imagine your back and your upper body sinking a centimeter into whatever surface they are in contact with. Continue to breathe normally. Now move the spotlight up to include your face, the top of your head, and the back of your head. As you continue to breathe normally, focus your perception on relaxing your muscles on your face. See if you can extend the duration of your exhales ever so slightly. And now, in your mind's eye, expand the spotlight downward to include your neck, your chest, your arms, your abdomen, your waist, your legs, and down to your feet. Imagine yourself looking down at your own body, illuminated inside of the spotlight. And in your mind's eye, deliberately dim that spotlight, make the illumination less intense. Inhale deeply again through your nose or through your mouth, and exhale completely through thinly pursed lips. As you do so, imagine your entire body sinking into the surface that it's in contact with. Now, while continuing to breathe normally, move your toes ever so slightly. You'll notice that you're in control of your body. Bend your knees gently. Move your head side to side. Gently open your eyes.